Good evening. My name is Christy Newitt. I am the counseling coordinator for Cumberland County Schools. So I get the amazing privilege to work with the school counselors anywhere from kindergarten to 12th grade throughout the district, help supervise them with their administration. And for those of you that may not know, it is National School Counseling Week. You guys have one more day to wish your awesome folks a happy National School Counseling Week and thank them for their support and all they do for you guys, from your academics to your social, emotional, and career growth. But tonight I'm going to let Megan introduce herself in a second. But tonight we are here to talk to you all a little bit about the process around selecting your courses for the next school year. That is a pretty big thing when it comes to middle and high school. And it grows even more so as you get to high school, and really making sure you're selecting those classes that align with what you want to do after high school. So we thought this might be something that could be helpful for this time of year as we are getting into the part of the school year where you will start to be asked to think about those things, and we wanted to make sure you had the tools to be able to do it for you to be able to do it the best way. So I'm going to turn this over to Megan, let her introduce herself, and then we will go ahead and get started.
Thanks, Christy. My name is Megan McMillan. I am the middle grades career development coordinator. So I actually work with all middle schools across the district and just trying to give them a lot of kind of direction with careers and exposure to different types of careers. And a great way that we do that is with our Major Clarity, which I'll kind of show you. Actually, last week I did a whole presentation on Major Clarity, so you can still check that out. But we're going to look tonight specifically at the scheduling feature in Major Clarity for this presentation.
And two of our colleagues, Tanika Williams, who's our Career Pathways Coordinator, so she helps oversee and coordinate our CTE department, and Charlotte Brooks, Special Populations Coordinator, are part of this presentation and really puts the effort into helping make sure that we had the right language and could help you all through those processes as well. So we will be talking about those areas also. Okay, so our objectives tonight, what are you going to learn? How are we going to do all of this? So you just got the introduction. We will review workshop guidelines one more time. And then I'm going to take the time to kind of review with you the course selection process. What does it look like? How does it work? What do you need to know? What do you need to have? And then we'll take you through 3 separate areas that kind of become part of it. So as Megan said, she's going to review with you all the Major Clarity platform and how it can help you through this process. CTE, so the CTE component of understanding as you move from middle school to high school, the different CTE pathways and how they align with careers that you may be interested in, where you can earn credentialing and other things that fall within that career and technical education. And then last, the College and Career Promise program, which is for our high school juniors and seniors, where they're able to earn college credit while in high school versus taking advanced placement courses. So yeah, so it should hopefully be a pretty exciting and informational evening. So we're gonna go ahead and move forward. So just to remind you again regarding our workshop guidelines, we ask that you please place your computer on mute during the workshop. We do ask that you went ahead already and signed in by placing your name and the school that your child attends in the chat box. That way we kind of have a general idea of who is coming. And then questions placed in the chat box will be answered at the end of the workshop. So if things are coming up, please do not hesitate to put your question out there. We definitely want to help answer them. I can also tell you that we have all of our email addresses are on the last slide. So if there are questions that didn't get answered, you are more than welcome to reach out to us individually. So let's talk about this course selection process. What does it look like? What do you need to know? Why is it important? So just so you have an idea, the course selection process is one that we involve our students in, and it basically is asking them, along with you all as a family, to select their courses for the next school year. So for middle school, that's really selecting their electives. Their cores are set by the state curriculum, by our Department of Public Instruction, but they do get that option to choose electives. And then for our high school, they get a lot more options. They have the option to not only choose their course outside of their graduation requirements, but they have the option of even choosing honors versus advanced placement versus some of the FTCC classes that meet those graduation requirements. And then they have like multiple options, a very large variety of electives that they can choose. And that's where we're going to really talk about how to connect those choices to their skills and their interests and what they want to do when they graduate high school. So that's kind of the important part of the course selection process. It's not just, hey, I need to fill out a sheet and pick classes. There is an intentional approach to it. We want to make sure you all know what you're doing with that. So what does it look like? So for middle school students, it's pretty simple. Basically, usually you all will be given either, this year will probably be a Google form while we're still in that virtual learning, but we will, your high school, or your middle school counselor will arrange either, depending on what grade level, so 6th, 7th, or 8th. So my 6th and 7th graders, you will sit down with your middle school counselors, and they will have you select from the different elective options that are provided in your school, anywhere from the arts, where usually there's a band or orchestra, to potentially a foreign language, to then some of your CTE classes. Each middle school kind of offers different electives based on potentially what their feeding high school is offering. So if you have a high school that specifies, you know, in science and technology or engineering, the CTE department tries to push in electives that kind of introduce the middle school students to that. But that's kind of what they would be selecting. My high school students, I'm gonna click on this link and it should take us straight there. Perfect. This is what's known as the high school course selection guide. Middle school students, you all will get this too. Yours for the 21-22 school year has just not been published or released yet. Parents, you can gain access to this by going to our CCS website, finding the curriculum tab, and then seeing where it says 21-22 high school curriculum guide. As you can tell, this has 153 pages, so there's lots for you to learn in this guide, but I'm just going to take you to a few different areas for you to be aware of. So the first one, once we kind of get through the table of contents and we get through Dr. Connolly's letter, you will start to see there's language in here about how students promote. So for my 8th graders that are about to be 9th graders, if you have been you're starting out as a CCS student, you are going to need to make sure that you have at least 6 classes passed at the end of your freshman year, and one of those has to be English 1. And then if you're sophomores, you have to have English 1 and 2 and 13 credits to be a junior. And to go from junior to senior status, you need to have 20 credits and English 1, 2, and 3. Obviously, we hope that you pass all of your classes, but we do understand sometimes that does not always happen. And so those are what is required to promote. Keep walking you all through. It talks about grading and weighting and, you know, how that works. It talks a little bit about the advanced placement courses, which we'll get into later, a little bit about major clarity, which you're about to hear about. But here are your actual graduation requirements. I highly encourage you all to take a look at this so you can see really what is expected of you or of your child to graduate. We expect our regular ed students to graduate with their 4 English credits, 4 math credits, but of those, the expectation is they get North Carolina Math 1, North Carolina Math 2, North Carolina Math 3, and then a 4th math that aligns with what they want to do after high school. We need them to pass an earth science class, biology, and then a physical science course. They'll have to pass 4 social studies credits, world history, American history 1 and 2, and civics and economics. And they have to have a health and PE credit. They have to have 6 elective credits. And then world language is not required to graduate, but it is required if they are planning on attending a 4-year university. So we try to still encourage all of our students to try foreign language, whether they are planning on going to a 4-year college or not. And then Cumberland County requires an additional 6 electives to meet our 28 for graduation. So I just recommend you guys kind of getting to know this chart and really understand what's required of you to be able to graduate and walk across that stage that everybody looks forward to. This is a 4-year plan worksheet. So, this is something that you can kind of use for yourself as you move through the high school process, to be able to track what classes you've taken, what grades you earned. So that way you know exactly how many credits you have, and then here's a checklist. The rest of this really, basically lays out what your options are. It gives you course descriptions. It walks you through the CTE options and credentialing. So definitely a guide that we recommend you look through. Usually our rising ninth graders will get a physical copy of this, and then our other high school students are given access to the link, and your counselors will work with you to understand it and kind of know what you're picking. I will say that every class that's offered in Cumberland County Schools is in this guide, but just because it's in here does not mean that your school offers it. So that is something to be aware of, that just because it's in here doesn't mean it's going to be provided at your school. All right, let me go back to our PowerPoint. And what are my options? So now middle school, let's talk a little bit about that. So middle school, you all are required to have certain classes. Let me see if I can also make this a little bit bigger. You all are required to have certain classes by each year. So you're going to always have to have an English language arts class, a mathematics class, science, social studies. Your sixth grade year, you're going to also be required to have one semester worth of health and PE. And then you'll have either one full year or 2 semesters worth of electives. You're not required to take a CTE class. Usually those electives would be 4 9-week options. They call it a wheel, and you kind of get to experiment. Or it might be that you choose to take a semester of band or orchestra, or one of the year-long semester electives. 7th graders, we now start to add the computer skills requirements. They still have that 18-week health and PE requirement, and then they also would have an additional elective or 2 that they'll get to pick from. 8th grade, same thing. The computer skills now moves to computer applications, and then we also have 18 weeks of a semester of health and PE, and then additional 1 or 2, full semesters of electives. So like I said before, you're really picking those electives. Your counselors kind of already know what you have to have. These will already be on your schedule. You don't have a choice to change those. Where you get your choice will be with your elective courses. High school students, I'm going to kind of put a pause on this, and as when I pass it over to Megan, I'm going to let her talk a little bit about that selection based on interest, because it's going to really kind of come from really looking at who you are as an individual, the skills that you have, your likes, your interests, and then trying to pick your electives based on that. And I'm going to let her kind of take that conversation over when we get to the major clarity piece, because it's a tool that's going to help you figure that out. Who's there to help you? So first of all, your school counselor. So if you've never met your school counselor, you need to meet him or her. They are there to help you, not just if you are feeling sad, happy, angry, but they're also there to help address any kind of academic issues, as well as help you plan for after high school, after your K-12 education. So your school counselors are definitely that one of the main people, if not the lead person, that's going to help you with this process, middle school to high school. Some other individuals that may play a part in this process will be a CTE facilitator, especially if you are a student that is looking to become part of one of our academies, our CTE academies, or you are on your pathway of earning a CTE credential or becoming a CTE completer. So they can definitely be a help. If you are part of the academically gifted program, your AIG teacher or consultant can definitely be a huge help too. They can make sure that you are signing up for classes that meet what you need based on your AIG plan. Usually we push our AIG students into the honors, the AP, that section to make sure they're getting the rigor that their plan requires. So those are 3 people that are 100% on your team, but your teachers can also help. Your teachers can help recommend in terms of what level to go to just based on what they've seen from your learning, and can kind of help answer some questions that you might have. And in terms of what do you need? So The first thing is just be on the lookout for something from your school counselor around this process. We probably won't get this process started until mid to late March this year. That's kind of what we are thinking. And they will probably send some sort of communication out about how it's going to work. They may have you watch some videos that will be virtual tours of the school, or maybe some of the adults who offer clubs or elective courses to give you a better idea of what those classes are. And then it will be completing, whether it's a Google form, whatever they choose, to have you do that actual selection process. For my high school students, usually this is going to also involve you looking at your previous courses that you have passed. So making sure that you talk to them about looking at that transcript, making sure you're not selecting courses that you've already passed, that you're not putting yourself in a course that's needing a prerequisite. So you can't go into English 2 if you didn't pass English 1. So making sure you're taking the right stepping stones to do that. So that's pretty much what you need at this point in time. And like I said, those course selection guides come in very handy as well, and can be definitely helpful when you're looking at course descriptions and knowing what you want to do. So I am now going to pass the microphone as well as the screen onto Miss Megan. She is going to walk you guys, navigate with you all the Major Clarity platform. So I am going to mute myself. I'm going to stop sharing, and she is going to take over from here.
And actually, if you want to pause for a second while I get this ready, there are some questions that came through if you wanted to take a look. I know one of the parents asked about the meetings being virtual.
Sure. Yes, absolutely. I am not looking at let me go into the chat box real quick. Okay. So will this be a virtual meeting? Yes. So right now the plan is all the meetings are going to be virtual. From the high school, we've only met with high school at this point because middle school usually happens after the high school process starts. So our high school counselors, the plan is to pull you all as large grade levels first, and then from there they're going to put them either in small group meetings, or they're going to push into the teachers' classrooms and bring them out one-on-one in a virtual breakout room to meet with them, so they get that individual attention. So yes, all of these are going to be virtual, because at this point it's, we'll probably start this before we plan on moving into Plan B. So the plan right now is to keep it virtual. Yes.
All right. So I'll just kind of highlight and go over real quick what Major Clarity is, but it's essentially a website that all of our students have access to, and it syncs with the students' PowerSchool accounts. So they all should be in there and have an account as long as they're in PowerSchool. And it's a really great tool just to expose the students to career exploration, and also kind of link what some of their interests and passions to careers. And it helps kind of merge some of these counseling things, and also just help them kind of support and build out a plan of study that's going to be reflective of students' individual strengths, abilities, and interests, and also their long-term goals. And what I'm going to do is I will also, again, recommend that if you want to find out more information about Major Clarity, you can check the Cumberland County YouTube channel or even the Cumberland County Facebook. And last Thursday, I did a whole presentation on all the tools in Major Clarity. Tonight, I'm just going to highlight the academic planning section, and we're going to kind of explore a student's kind of pathway of interest, and then choose some courses that align to that. And then I'll show you how to review the academic and career plan that it creates for students. So I'll take you to the website. And for all students to sign in, it's super easy. They're going to click that login or sign up. Their accounts are already created. They do not have to type anything. They're just going to click that continue with Google button, and then they're going to select their school account on the next screen. So it will be the same for all of them. Let's see. Oh, sign me in real quick. All right. And I'm going to switch the roles so that we're seeing what the students see real quick. Okay. So this is this is kind of like the landing page for students when they first get in. It's taking them to the career exploration. Where we want to get started is going on the left-hand navigation panel and clicking on academic planning. And I'm actually going to jump back for a second so you can see kind of where we start. So the students first start by selecting the high school that they're planning to attend and choosing a pathway of their choice. And each of the pathways that are listed here are built to match the offerings at the high school that they've selected, and they map to a specific career cluster. And you'll see up here where you can change those high schools by clicking that box. Or if this is the first time a student has logged in, it won't have a high school selected, so they can click that area to select which high school they're attending. All right, so after they do that, it's really about finding which pathway works for them. So the best way to select which pathway the students are, kind of interested in fitting and meeting is if they have gone in here, which they should have with their counselors and some of the CTE teachers, and really worked with completing some of the assessments. And what they'll find after completing the assessments and doing some career exploration is they should have information that's saved here in their portfolio. So if the students click the My Portfolio section, what they're going to get is a list of all of their favorites. So if they've been in Major Clarity and using it and completing those assessments and doing some career exploration, they're going to start to have these favorites. And all the students really can do is to kind of narrow down which pathway that they are interested in is click one of these career paths and then find out what cluster that it falls under. So hospitality and tourism. And then they can go back, to the academic planning and look for a pathway that meets that career cluster. So you can see under here, they have all of the career clusters listed. I'm having some hard times scrolling, but okay, there it goes. So they can look for that hospitality and tourism, if that's one of their kind of top interests that they are enjoying and that they favorited, and then they can select this as their pathway. So now that you have your pathway selected, you need to build your plan of study. And this is not a course registration. This is basically just a way for students to plan out their courses. And so what they're going to typically see on this page is, depending upon what grade level they are in, they're going to see the courses that they've already passed. And if they pass them, this will actually be a green line here, and it will say passed, currently where this one's saying planned. And the students can use these arrows to toggle back and forth to see other grade levels. So if they want to plan out kind of the next 4 years, or if it jumps them to the high school, they can go back and review their middle school. So those arrows will help you toggle back and forth. So looking at kind of maybe we're in 9th grade, we'll say, and we're planning our 10th grade course selection. So the students pick their courses, and if you look on the left-hand side, it's basically kind of spelling out, which subject area you're choosing from. So that's when they click this plus sign to add a course, it's going to give them the suggested courses based on their current pathway. So for me, if you're a parent, this is really something great that you can sit down, work with a student in Major Clarity, kind of go through, and then you have this plan that you can then take to a counselor and kind of come to prepared to that meeting, essentially. So here the students can choose if they are, there are some kind of options here. I'll mention that. So they can select basically, the math course that they plan to take. Some students, I know they double up on courses. So if that's an option and you're doubling up to do 2 math courses, you can select 2 of these at a time. And if you click this square, it will actually maximize and show those planned courses. This is also a great way when you get to electives to have kind of alternate choices. So if a student wants to, you know, really get into this class, but in case that class fills up, they want to take, you know, have an alternate ready, they can add those alternate courses by just clicking that plus sign and choosing all of the other courses. Sometimes there are math options that aren't kind of showing here on the left-hand side. If the students type and they kind of have an idea using those course catalogs and stuff for a class that they're looking for, they can find other classes that will populate, kind of as they type, it will populate, you know, what the course that you're searching for is. So that's just kind of a look at how you can plan these your course of study and just going through and selecting kind of those classes. So very similar to what Christy mentioned in that course catalog where the students can go through and do it on paper. This is another way to do the same thing kind of digitally, and I'll show you where they can then see a version that they can print out. But just going through, selecting all the courses, and then there's kind of the elective choice, which is more focused on kind of the arts and humanities. So your foreign languages, band, your dance and other visual arts. And then there's also the pathway elective. So this is where it really starts to tie into some of the CTE offerings and that pathway that the students are choosing so that they get a real taste of kind of what this career would look like. And I think it's a good way for students to kind of test the water out before they go and spend possibly, you know, money on a 4-year degree, saying, okay, yeah, I really enjoy and like this class. I know we have a lot of students, and I have a friend that, you know, really wanted to do health and wanted to help people and got into the health industry and realized that she did not like dealing with bodily fluids. But had she taken some of these courses in high school, kind of got a taste for it, she could have realized, you know, there is a health administration side and some of those other options out there. So really, it's just trying to expose our kids to these different pathways and help them make decisions at a younger age. Below, there's also a graduation tracker. And this is basically just showing the students kind of what they've completed, the percentage of what they have planned, and then kind of their total completion rates. So they can kind of just visually see, all right, yeah, I haven't planned anything for arts. I haven't planned anything for my CTE courses. I need to probably add some of those in to stay on track for graduation. There's also, we have uploaded the graduation requirements here as well, that they can click and get the PDF version. Now I will say, I think we need to update this because they just released the new one not too long ago. So we're working on getting that updated currently. But this is basically just an overview of kind of what this scheduling looks like in Major Clarity. And then when the students are all done, they can go down to where it says My Career Plan and get a print off of what this plan looks like. So if they click this View Career Plan, it will open a PDF that they can print off, and it will have kind of their assessments, what kind of their learning styles and what the career cluster that they've selected. And then below that, it will have their plan of study mapped out for them, the courses that they're taking. So this is really something, if they can complete this and kind of bring it with them for scheduling, that's great. But at the same time, a counselor can pull up the same information if they have gone in and done it. So even if you know, they don't have this at their fingertips, if they've gone into Major Clarity and completed it, a counselor can pull the same academic and career plan for that student in Major Clarity up and view it as well. And then just a little bit more in any other information of things that they've liked and selected. All right, so I think that kind of covers the academic and career planning. And also check out on this the Cumberland County Schools website under departments. You can find career and technology education. And then career development, we have a whole page for major clarity dedicated to this. And I have some tutorials and things out there to guide you through this section again as well. So I'm gonna pass this back to Christy to finish.
Okay, so let's get us back in. So any parent, I love the engaging questions. So any parent that or student that's watching that did have more major clarity questions, I will once again emphasize that Megan actually did this presentation two Tuesdays ago. It's Thursday, so like last Thursday, was it last Thursday? So you all can go on to the CCS either YouTube channel. I believe it's also on our Facebook page, and you can watch that, and she gives you an even more in-depth tutorial around major clarity. I also will tell you that we have slowly started to implement this in the schools. We had a big plan to release it this year, and then as you all know, this year has kind of needed a re-imaging, reframing. So our counselors, our CTE facilitators, our CTE teachers are aware of it, our administration is aware of it, but it has not been kind of a mandatory or mandated release like we were thinking. We're aiming to start that for next year. There were some questions about what grade levels 7th through 12th right now have access to this, and we are looking to include our 6th graders. We may not have specific things we do with them, but we will split those. We will do for our 7th through 12th, but we will still have them doing some smaller things as 6th graders to start that process. So you have heard us use the words or the acronym CTE pretty much all night long. So to help you understand that, for those of you that are not aware of it, it is the modernized version of vocational education. For those of you that had, vocational education during your studies, it is now known as career and technical education. And as you can see on the screen, these are courses that are elective courses and allow our students to explore their different career interests. They have, that allows the students to basically explore certain focused career pathways, and I'll click on that in a second so you can see what those are, basically before entering college or the world of work. As you heard Megan talk about a student who thought she wanted to be a doctor, thought she wanted to go in the health field, gets there and realizes, oh, I don't like blood. Well, if she had been exposed to maybe some of our nursing classes or health science classes, or even anatomy and physiology, which does not usually align with the CTE, but if she had taken some of those, then she would have had the ability to know, ooh, maybe the health pathway is not the way I want to go. So it's kind of, that's kind of why we emphasize our students to really have a broad experience with their electives when they're in high school, or even starting in middle school when they have that opportunity, but also to really pay attention to that skills and interest inventory that they'll complete, because that will kind of give them a window to maybe where, and I can tell you they pretty much stick. I have always been the, helper. I always had education pop up in mine. So, education and psychology. So, and that was my pathway in life. So they pretty much stay true to who you are. Students have the opportunity to apply for enrollment in 11 of the CTE career academies at various high schools. That is done through our School of Choice program. I will say that School of Choice window did just close. My hope is that my middle school counselors and did what I'm aware of them doing, and they kind of pushed that information out, and you all were given access or information to that. But usually you can apply for that right before freshman year, or usually going into sophomore year. It's usually not too late if you haven't already applied for it. By the time they hit junior year, there's just too many classes to try to take to be able to access it or to be able to graduate on time with it. But we do have some really neat programs. And then lastly, students will develop and possess the needed skills for college and career readiness via classroom, academic, and work-based skills needed in the world. There's opportunities for them their senior year to go off site and do job like internships and that kind of thing. If they're a completer, they'll be asked to take what's called the ACT Work Keys, which is a skills-based certificate-like program that a lot of our bigger companies will actually want people that they're going to hire to go out and pay for and take, and they look to see what skills they have coming in, and our students get to take this for free. So it's a really neat, there's some really cool things that come out of being part of the CTE world, including credentialing around Microsoft Word and other programs within the technology world. So I'm going to click here and show you the career pathways. And as you can see here, you can have your students can basically find a CTE interest within these certain main groups. So under agriculture, food, and natural resources, you can see that's going to be areas around animal science, equine science, foods, horticulture. We have 2 high schools that offer these types of programs, and that's our the Cape Fear District and the Grays Creek District offer a lot of these. Most of our schools do offer the foods, but the animal science is mostly out of the Cape Fear and Grays Creek areas. You can see there's architecture and construction, the arts, AV, technology, and communications. So for your students that are really into video gaming or just video, photography, that kind of thing, this is really probably more their thing. Business management and administration, finance, health sciences, education and training, government and public administration, hospitality and tourism, human services, law and public safety, information technology, manufacturing, marketing, science, technology, engineering, and math, and transportation. And what I will do is I will copy this link very quickly, and I will put this in the chat box for you guys so you can have access to it yourself. And I am going to actually pass the microphone off. Miss Brooks was finally able to join us. She had some stuff come up last minute that she had to take care of. So I'm going to actually pass this over to the professional and let her finish out the CTE conversation. I will keep sharing, but she is going to take over the mic and keep us going. So Miss Charlotte, take it away.
All right, good evening, everyone. Sorry about that. You know how things come up at the last minute and everything goes on. But thank you, Ms. Newitt, for going through to this part in dealing with CTE. So one thing, again, that I think she did share, the fact we do have a lot of opportunities that are available for our students, and not as many in the middle school, but definitely the high school has more opportunities. And so through all those classes, they will get information that will help them so that they're either can make decisions as they continue on in 2 or 4 years after high school, or if they want to go directly into the world of work. So those courses that we do offer, whether in middle or high school, are generally always developed by the state, and they're based on industry standards. So CTE takes and works with business and industry to find out what the needs are in our state and across our community. And we try to have those courses that we know would be something the students would be able to use if they were going straight into work or of interest in an area that they have a career interest or opportunity through college, after college, to go to work in that area. As Ms. Newitt just mentioned, some of our students in our high school level are able to earn certifications and credentials in our courses. Some of those can be used immediately while they're in high school. They can use some of those to go out and get part-time jobs. After graduation, those credentials too can also lead right into full-time employment, as well as those that maybe are not planning on going to work, but going on to college. Sometimes some of our credentials can help your student to be distinguished between other applicants that may be applying to a specific college or for scholarships, because it shows that they have done something more. They're a well-rounded individual student while they're at school, and sometimes it can just help to set apart from other students. We have, as she mentioned, we have Microsoft Word credentials. We have Adobe credentials in our automotive technology. Students can come out with those credentials. And then part of that too if we do not have a career area that is of interest for your particular student, it could be that we have that available through our CCP at Fayetteville Tech. So as our students, especially those 11th graders and those 12th graders, as they get to those last couple of years, they may decide not to take all their classes strictly in the high school, and they have that opportunity to go and earn some of those certificates or credentials in our CCP here. So, and one thing too, through both of those opportunities, whether it's taking the courses in Career and Tech at the high school or here coming to the Career and College Promise through Fayetteville Tech, most of the time we find students that are involved in our CTE areas or the CCP areas, they're more likely to be ready to go on either to a 2-year, 4-year, or go on to work. Most of them are not going to say, I don't know what I want to do after graduation. So that involvement helps them become focused. So here we're looking at our Career and College Promise. Again, this is our collaboration.
You got muted, Charlotte.
Sorry, tried to move us around. Through the College and Career Promise at Fayetteville Tech, we have highly qualified high school students that are taking these courses. It is tuition free. Students do not have to pay. Books are generally paid for through with the high school students. The only thing sometimes might have to be paid is if they're in a credentialing area that requires some type of specialized kit, like for example, if they're taking something in the nail or something in the hair salon area, they might have to have a kit, and then that is generally has to be purchased by the student. But everything else is tuition free, and there are no fees for books that may be needed. A lot of those courses, like I said, will prepare students going directly to work, or they will have a certificate that can help them going on to a further maybe 2-year technical school. The other part of our College and Career Promise is our college transfer classes. This allows students to go through and they will receive those courses that are able to transfer to our 16 public UNC schools. So those would be your general education courses, possibly your art, psychology, some of your foreign languages. So this is an opportunity, again, that you can take those courses while you're in high school. You get dual credit, so you get high school credit, and you get college credit that you don't have to pay for. So for students may not understand that, but our parents out there, they will understand. For every course you take in in college, you have to pay for it. So if you can take some of these general education courses that would transfer to one of our 16 public university systems, then that means you're saving money even before your student gets to college. So we try to encourage our students to take advantage of both of those. As I said, the Career and Tech at Fayetteville Tech will also help to lead them into industry certifications. And a lot of times we already have companies as they go through some of those certification areas that will automatically go ahead and hire them straight from after they've earned that certification or credential. There is going to be a Career and College Promise virtual open house on Tuesday, February the 23rd for our 11th and 12th graders. And I know there will be more information that will be placed out there for you to sign up to attend that. Also, there is a difference between advanced placement, which is in the school, and the Career and College Promise. And I'm going to turn that back over to Christy to explain the difference between those two.
Not a problem. And thank you so much for filling them in on the College and Career Promise. And I just want to emphasize that those the college transfer classes are great, but I think a lot of times our students forget about what they can get from those career and technical education options, especially if they know that they really want to only go on to that 2-year level school, those trades. We need those trades. Mm-hmm. So please really don't discount those. Parents understand that a 2-year degree is just as powerful, just as helpful as a 4-year. And if you look at the stats in terms of money and success, the jobs out there are a a lot of them are trades. Unfortunately with those others, a higher degree is kind of needed now. So we just try to emphasize not to discount those trade skills and those 2-year degree programs. So advanced placement, what's the difference? So advanced placement is our rigorous courses that provide what they consider college-like rigor. It's through the College Board, and similar to what College and Career Promise provide, they do allow students to earn credit towards their college career. However, they are taken at the high school level, and they're taught more in like seminars, I would say. So they're going to be taught at a faster pace, probably level. They'll be taught with more in-depth thinking type questions and conversations. Like I said, trying to prepare our students for having those kinds of conversations that they would be having within their college community. And then at the end of the year, in order to earn the credit, they would take the AP test. And then depending on their score, they would be able to report that to the school, and then the school would be able to award them a credit in replacement to replace either taking electives further on or to just replace a course altogether. There are mixed reviews about what to do. Some kids are like, well, I don't want to have to take a test to get college credit. I think it comes down to what you are really wanting, where you're wanting to go, what you're wanting to do to choose between AP versus College and Career Promise. I will say they are both wonderful programs. They both offer a lot. For AP, I think the difference from what I've heard is I think the setup in terms of what they cause the students to do in terms of the conversations and the higher thinking piece. Some students that have come back have said have helped prepare them a little bit more for what they were thrown in that classroom environment at that 4-year university. But I've also heard from, the FTCC students that, having that exposure to a college professor early on was kind of helpful, and kind of knowing what they expected, and, that work has to be turned in on time. It's not the same, that you are really treated as that independent student. I've heard with the AP classes, it kind of broadens your horizons in terms of your global kind of learning and thinking. And the other thing is, with the CCP classes, they're guaranteed to transfer to our UNC system schools, but they're not guaranteed to transfer to any other school. A lot of times they'll be taken as elective credits, but will not replace your freshman English class, let's say, or your freshman biology. So I think the other thing is, where does your student want to apply? If they're trying to apply to a top 10 school, your Ivy Leagues, my suggestion as a counselor would be probably to push them more towards that advanced placement route than that College and Career Promise route. Both great programs, but ultimately those top 10 Ivy League schools are going to be looking more for that rigor of AP versus your community college credit courses. If you're looking to attend one of our UNC system schools, I would say have a balance of both. Take advantage of your FTCC college classes, but also challenge yourself with an AP class here or there, just to kind of get the experience of both. Understanding what it's like to be in a class with a college professor, but then also being forced to have the rigor and knowing how to have a higher brained conversation where you have to go in and be able to use different debating skills and writing skills to master it. So once again, it's not really one is better than the other. It really comes down to what is the end goal and what are you looking for out of a program. You can start taking them as early as sophomore year. Some schools, there are some that are offered for APs as freshmen. However, we really try to start encouraging them by sophomore year, just because as I've emphasized, they are rigorous, and as freshmen, you guys are starting to still try to figure out what the high school experience is altogether. But we do have options for sophomores. We have the teleconferencing program. So for students who are at high schools that have maybe a limited availability to certain APs, at the central office, as a district as a whole, we provide what's called teleconferencing, and that's where we're able to offer different AP courses that are taught. It's taught through the computer, but it's one-on-one. The student has a headset and they're watching their teacher teach them. So unlike asynchronous learning, it is still synchronous. But they're learning with students from all over the county together, and it could be from a teacher that's in a different building. but it provides them with that opportunity to take those AP classes. So that's kind of overall our big presentation. Hopefully that kind of helps you guys have a general idea of why to take the scheduling and the course selection process seriously, how to figure out, you know, who you are as a learner, who you are as an individual, and the importance of putting your skills and interests together, and then knowing what some of your options are when you get to that high school level and being able to really explore those things, whether it's by, you know, a CTE pathway or trying to challenge yourself through the College and Career Promise program or taking some AP classes. So we may have a couple minutes to answer questions. I will ask Ms. George to kind of end us out, but this last slide has all of our email addresses. So please feel free to contact us if you have questions, or, you know, and if anything pops up later, we are definitely here to help you or your student out 100%.